So thank you for joining us for today's session on upgrading to Goverlan 8.5. The primary purpose of today's session is to help people upgrade to 8.5. It's, this is a very big update for Goverlan customers. We're moving away from the old ways of using activation codes to activate the products on our activate Goverlan on our machines, and we're moving toward this sign-in method in the My Goverlan portal. There have been a lot of questions and some issues with customers who have migrated so far. So if you got this invite, it's because you're a Goverlan customer and Goverlan 8.5 is available for you, and either you have or you have not moved to Goverlan 8.5, but maybe you had questions, maybe you wanted to see what else we're working on, and all that stuff is going to be covered today. So just to jump right in, we did put together just a little goofy poll just to get an idea of who we're talking to today. There's quite a few people on the phone. So just two questions here. Are you currently using Goverlan 8.5? So let's get an idea of if you're already moved to 8.5. So I see a couple of you have. And then the second question is, more for people who are not using 8.5, is do you know who your license administrator is? Because that is a very, very important piece of information if you're going to make this update happen. You're actually not going to make it happen if you don't know who your license administrator is. It's just not going to work, and we'll explain why. So just give you folks a couple of seconds here to fill out that quick survey. Are you using Goverlan 8.5, and do you know who your license administrator is? And we're in really good shape with this crowd because most of you seem to know who your license admin is. And if you don't feel bad. We're going to straighten that out by the end of this demo. So just another second or two, and we'll end the poll, and we're just going to move right along and tell you how to find out your license administrator for the couple of folks that aren't aware. And then for the folks who are already using 8.5, we have some enhancements to share, and we're also going to sneak peek the beta again. So the beta of Goverlan version 9 is available. We're going to take another quick look at that. So I'm just going to end the poll here. It seems like a little over half of the folks on the call are not yet using Goverlan 8.5, and just about everyone, 86% know their license admin. So let's jump right in with some important information. And there's a blog post published on all this stuff. It has who your license admin is, how you find out, how you can contact us. So here's the first very important thing for the couple of folks who did not know who their license administrator is. Goverlan 8.5 is sign-in based. It's all driven by the My Goverlan portal. We have assigned a license administrator to every account. The license administrator is somebody that works within your organization and is tasked with distributing the Goverlan licenses you own. If you only own one license and you're the only user, you're probably the license administrator. But if you have a lot of licenses, we kind of pick somebody almost arbitrarily. We pick the person who we communicate with the most. So because we knew that person got access to Goverlan. Now the license administrator, their abilities include being able to create Goverlan users and being able to distribute licenses. So it's very important that you know who that license administrator is so that you can gain access to Goverlan. If you don't know who your license administrator is, you cannot gain access to Goverlan 8.5. And that's because everything, again, is driven by the My Goverlan portal here. So, you have to have sign-in access. And that sign-in access can only be provided by your license administrator. If you just go to the Goverlan site and you hit the try button, it's going to create a trial account for you. You're only going to have access to the trial. You won't have access to your company's licenses. So it's important that you find out who your license administrator is. So I guess the million-dollar question for the couple of folks that weren't aware of who their license administrator is how do I find out? Well, you just contact us. Just email sales@goverlan.com, put in the subject line, who is my license admin? Within a couple of seconds, somebody will reply and say, go talk to Jeff or Steve.
Or the license people. as well.
Yeah, and if you're in our blog, you can even click this little contact us, and we'll even populate the subject line for you, so it'll.
And on the portal too, there's a link, right?
Yep, there's a lot of different places where you can reach out to us. Again, just email sales@goverlan.com. Ask who is my license admin. So then next step to upgrading is you have to log into the my.goverlan portal. Don't download the product from somewhere else or anything like that. Make sure you can log into the my.goverlan portal, because my credentials for the my.goverlan portal are also what gives me access to the product, because we're sign-in based now. We are no longer, we're no longer activation key based. If you're a user for a while, you now need to sign into the product, and those sign-in details that are provided by your license admin are what gives you access to the product. So you're going to sign into the my.goverlan portal that I have here in front of me, and then next step to a successful update to 8.5 is to download the latest version. So after you sign in, you'll come in on this licensing tab, you'll see your license, and right here you can click on download this product, and you want 8.50.17. That is the latest version of Goverlan that's available to you. So all you're gonna do is download the latest version. Just again, visit the portal, click on download this product, click that download button. It's just going to download the latest version. And then you run the update. So step 4 is run the update. So now here's just a quick important note, right? This Goverlan 8.5 installs right on top of the previous version, which is 8.01.10. So what I mean by installs right on top is you don't have to uninstall the previous version, you just run the update. What's going to happen is it's going to just update the console and basically switch out the licensing piece from that activation code method to this sign-in method. It's going to keep all your scope actions, custom actions, everything else should stay the same. All it's going to do is switch out this activation piece. Now, here's an important note in bold. If you're running a version previous to 8.01.10, and I think the previous version is 8.01.06, right? 09? So, okay, that's the agent version. So if you're running 8.01.09 or earlier, you do have to update the agents, but this does use the same agent as 8.01.10. So if you need to know whether you're going to have to update your agents, the easiest way to find out is go to Help, go to the About, and then obviously in the new version you see what version you're running right here. But go to Help, go to About, see what version you're running. If it says 8.01.10, you don't have to update the agents. If it says anything previous to that, you do have to update your agents. So again, updating the agents is sometimes a little bit inconvenient for folks. You can update them through the console, but everybody's environment is a little bit different. So this is important to be aware. We install right on top of 8.01.10. We use the same agent as 8.01.10, but if you're coming from a much older version, update the agents. Okay. All right, and moving right along. So then after you run the update, you're going to use your my.goverlan.com credentials to sign into the console. This is very straightforward. The same credentials I used, to gain access to my Goverlan, I'm going to use them to sign into the console. Now, if you're creating other users, if you're a licensed admin and you're creating users, they do get an email automatically. So here we're just going to create another user for myself. I don't think this one exists, but I'm just going to add a 66 to it just in case. And I'm just going to use my normal email address to get the notification, just so I can show you. So here I'm going to create the standard user, and I'm going to give them access to Suite Department B, and I'm going to hit Add. When you create a user, they get an email from us with their login details automatically. So we're just going to give that a second to come in, and I'll drag that over and show you what it looks like. So here it is. You see I get the email with the temporary password and sign-in details automatically. This user just needs to go and sign into the Goverlan portal, and then they can get access to the license that they're authorized for.
Please note that if they have not, excuse me, if they have not signed into the portal first and reset their password when they try to log into Goverlan,
we actually did away with that.
So message. So.
Yeah, no. These credentials will work. We had a thing with forcing a password update, but it was just awkward, and you're not gaining access to much by gaining access to the portal. Goverlan only, it's still working based on Windows permissions and authentication. So you don't have, there's no force update passwords. Little note on why it's important for you folks who have not updated to 8.5 to walk through these steps. Is because there's the activation code method that's built into previous versions of Goverlan is being end of life. It's a third-party application that we were plugging into, and that application is being end of life. So we don't have the ability to support it much longer. I think we're through November 15th, and then we're no longer going to be able to do activations or license transfers or anything else. Everything is moving to the My Goverlan portal. So make all your efforts to perform these updates before November 15th. It's a very easy update to go through. Obviously a little wrench in the gears if you're running a much older version and you have to update the agents, but even then should be very, very easy. Should only take a couple of minutes to get this whole thing up to date. Just some quick questions that have come through so far. Goverlan gets installed on each domain controller, right? I inherited an already existing installation.
We can, if we want, we can open up a support with him, and we'll contact you directly on that one.
We'll follow up on that. Okay.
Okay.
So another question, is this why I got a random email from Goverlan with my password a while back? I deleted that email. No problem. That is why there was no real clean way for us to notify the thousands of customers we have. So you may have gotten a random email. So no worries. Your username is your email address. So if you just log out and you go to this main page here, all you need to know is that your username is your email address, and then just click this forgot password link. It'll send you a new random email with the password so that you can gain access to it. So that's the easiest way. But again, we are here. So just, you can reach out to us, hit us up in chat. Our whole kind of focus right now is helping customers migrate to 8.5. So and you're going to see why. We're going to explain why more in just a minute. So yeah, so the date is November 15th. So what's happening on November 15th that you should be aware of? So on November 15th, we will no longer be able to use this activation method that's built into previous versions of Goverlan. It doesn't mean your consoles are going to stop working. It just means you won't be able to do like a license transfer. It means you won't be able to activate on a new machine. So as of November 15th, the only way for you to install Goverlan on a new machine is using Goverlan 8.5. So if I'm using Goverlan 7, can I jump straight to 8.5? You absolutely can. This is going to install totally separately in this case. It's going to be kind of a clean setup that you're going to have to do.
Yeah, 7 has completely different agents between the 8. They're not compatible with each other, so you can install and set up your whole Goverlan V8 infrastructure alongside of your V7, and then go ahead and eliminate it once you're comfortable with 8. And all the functionality of 8 is working for you.
So that's kind of nice to know, is you can run them side by side until you're good to go with 8.5, and then but yeah, you can just jump right straight to that, and you should be all set. So the date was actually originally September 15th, and then we were able to extend to October 15th. And now we've pushed as far as we can to November 15th. We just want to make sure that everybody has what they need. We have a lot of customers who have kind of different circumstances with how they use Goverlan, and I'm going to cover one of those in a moment. But yeah, it's now looking like November 15th is our date, and we're really pushing for this. There's a ton of advantages to using Goverlan 8.5 in this new license management system, including the one John has a question about, which is a good segue. It's kind of exactly what we're going to cover next. is this license now floating? So if I have 5 licenses and 8 possible users, as long as I only have 5 logged on at once, is that still okay? And that is absolutely still okay. So Goverlan is now a true concurrent user license. So by that I mean you can now install this admin portion, this Goverlan console, on as many machines as you want. We're not activation code based. We're now sign-in based. So I can have the Goverlan management software on every single machine if I want. I'm going to consume a license by signing into the product. I'm going to release that license by signing out. So let's just run through it 1 or 2 times just to show you some of the features here. So when I launch the console, it asks me for credentials. So I'm going to type in my credentials here and just a password. And this free the license when I close the program. This is what floats the license. So we have 2 different kind of licensing concepts here. Now, if you think about previous versions of Goverlan where it was activation code based, you activated your license on a machine and then it was fixed to that machine until you did a license transfer or something else. So if I have this unchecked, it fixes the license on this machine until I sign out of the console. So I have to hit the command sign out. If I check this off, it frees the license when I close the program. I'm going to show you that in just a second. It basically floats the license. So now I'm only consuming a license where the console is open. If I close the console, that license is available for use somewhere else.
But
so go ahead.
This multiple license screen that you're seeing here this will pretty much only appear for users that have been assigned more than 1 license or admin users. So if you're an admin user, then you'll always have this product select screen. So please be aware of your available licenses and the product type that you're selecting when you sign in.
Right, and if you only own 1 license, it's not going to come up, obviously. So we're gonna connect to Suite Department A right now and use the license. So when I use the license, it acquires the license from our licensing server. And now this license is now available for use on this machine. So now what happens on the portal side here, if we just jump back into our portal, we can see that that license is being consumed by this machine. See, I'm using Suite Department A. And if I navigate over to my licenses here, I can see Suite Department A. We can click on View Usage. And is my machine in here? Sometimes I've noticed that I'm having some issues acquiring and releasing. Yeah, I know. Let's just see if it, unless it's there and it's just obfuscated. No, it's not there. We'll take a couple of questions. So does this floating license work if the internet is not available? And we're going to go through some offline activation methods in just a second. But the answer to the question is that we're caching the license locally on your machine after you do a sign-in once. So if the internet becomes suddenly unavailable, you can see that in this case, I'm for some reason not communicating well with our GLS, but the product still works. And that kind of leads into the next question of, God forbid your server goes down, what then? So everything gets cached locally, and we have a lot of backup methods to make sure that we don't brick customers out of using their product. So we're not going to, even if you revoke a license, it's not going to instantly knock that person out. It's basically just going to free up the license and make it available for somebody else. So in terms of its reliance on anything on our end being up is very minimal. And at least we've given ourselves a good grace period to make sure that we can get things kind of up and running again.
Try C or B1, just right there, governance.
does it contact the licensing server every time you start up the program? And the answer to that is no. Things get cached locally on your machine. Once we see that there's an available license and you have a license available to you, we do minimal communications, just like everything else in Goverlan. Everything is kind of passive. It's not, there's not like a lot of forced actions going on. Oh, and here we go. So now we've actually gotten my license to communicate. But even before, when I was having a little bit of communication issues, the product still worked. This is just kind of to help us with license management. We're not trying to get in the way of anybody being productive. So you can see in this case that the license is a floating license. By that, it means that if I close the console, it's going to release the license back into the pool for somebody else to use. And this is what our question was earlier. I am definitely having some communication issues, but you can see that the license was released. Now, if I open the console again, it's just going to reacquire that same license. So we'll just do a quick refresh here, and we should be back in there with Goverlan 109, which is my machine. So it doesn't connect to the licensing server every single time. We've noticed that it takes a little bit to show the license used in the My Goverlan portal, but it eventually shows sometimes a few minutes later. Yeah, I haven't really experienced that until now. I guess it's timely, but I know we're making some updates on it now, and I actually just updated My Goverlan console to a version that hasn't had full regression testing, so that might be my issue. But that's something we can follow up with you on, John. Next thing, this floating licensing feature, right? This is something that a lot of folks really like because it means that I can have, let's say, 5 Goverlan licenses, but I can have 50 Goverlan users, and maybe not 50, but I can have a lot more Goverlan users and share licenses really easy. I close the application, it makes it available for somebody else. I relaunch the application, it requires a license if there's one available. So you may want to enforce that you always float your licenses, as opposed to giving people the ability to fix a license. Especially if you've used Goverlan for a while, you may have be so used to saying, oh, I have Goverlan on my desktop and my laptop, and I don't have to close one to open it on the other. Now you kind of do. You have to make sure you're freeing up that license. So there is a way to force all of your Goverlan consoles to only use the floating method, and that's available in the Goverlan Central Server or through GPO template. Either one of those methods will enforce floating across all your Goverlan consoles. And by that, it means that that checkbox will always be checked. So you won't have the option to uncheck this. That's especially helpful if you're using Goverlan in the kind of Citrix RDP world, where you want to make sure that license gets released when the RDP session ends. Make sure you're using that floating feature. And if you want to know more about forcing the floating, I'm going to point you to some documentation right now. We discussed this new licensing, and now we just discussed fixed versus floating. So fixed permanently deducts the license from the pool. The only way you can release a fixed license is by clicking on the command and sign out. So here I'm grabbing a fixed license instead. Again, we just need to do a quick restart here to force that through. But then the only way to release this fixed license is to click command and sign out. Closing the console will keep the license on this machine. And this is handy if you have Goverlan that you always want one license available on like a server or something like that. If you want to make sure that nobody on the team consumes that license, you can just fix it to that server or fix it to that workstation. All right, moving right along. So we talked about force floating. Okay, so do not use real identities. This is important for some folks, so I want to make sure we talk about it a little.
I can enforce it if you want.
Huh?
I can enforce it if you want while you're talking.
Okay, so there's some global policies you can use for the Goverlan licensing server and Goverlan v9. One of them is that forced license release, right? The forced floating that we just talked about. You can see here's a registry method as well. But the other one is do not use real identities. Now, what this is that within the Goverlan, within my Goverlan, you can actually see information about the user and machine that are using your licenses. Now, some organizations have sensitivities with information like this being, I guess, passed over the web. It is stored somewhere on our end. So if you don't want to have this information out there, you can obfuscate it, okay, by enforcing do not use real identities. This is also an option in the Goverlan Central Server, and what it does is it just kind of hashes out the host name, and I think you still get the VIA account, right?
Yes, yes.
You still get to see who's using the actual license, but we'll obfuscate this information here. And again, that's available via GPO or via the Goverlan Central Server. So either one of those ways, I can kind of hide the identity of the user using the product. If you want to further anonymize it, you can have one user account that signs into all of your machines. The thing is, as you move further and further down anonymizing who's using which license, it becomes harder to manage them. You're gonna have a more difficult time revoking licenses and reclaiming licenses if the machine goes down. Just reading through a question here.
That was it. You actually answered.
Oh, okay. All right. So do not use real identities. Again, gives me the ability to obfuscate the information that gets shared with the Goverlan licensing system. So next point here, we're going to talk about the V9 beta in just a second. So the next thing that's coming is offline activation, and one thing that's out there already is generating silent sign-on tokens. Now, this is a great feature if you just don't want to be bothered with another username and password to sign in and out of Goverlan, because the sign-in, what it's doing is kind of minimal. It's really just acquiring a license. It's not permissioning Goverlan in any way. It's just acquiring a license. If you don't want to be bothered with it, with kind of a one-time setup, you can create, a silent sign-on activation. I hit generate. I pop this into a registry key, right? And the information on that is right here in this self-service area. Silent sign-on of operators. It tells you exactly how to do it. Generate a registry key, pop in that value, and then that operator will not have to log into the console. As long as they're signing on and that registry value is in there, it'll acquire and release a license in the kind of a silent mode. So you don't have to be bothered with the prompt to sign in and out of the product. Okay? One other feature in 8.5 to discuss, and that is offline activations. And we're just going to talk about this very quickly because it's not something that gets widely used, but it's important to know that it is now there, or at least it's almost there. This is a pre-release build. So what this is a lot, not a lot, but I would say 10% of Goverlan users, they're doing their administration from machines that don't have access to the internet, right? So if your machine doesn't have access to the internet, it's obviously hard to acquire and release licenses like this because it needs internet access. So you have an offline activation method. It's just a link when you hit sign in, you say generate offline activation, right? It generates this key. Right? You're able to generate an email that you're then going to send to your license administrator. So I have to generate this email, send it to the license administrator. It has the key in there. Now, the license admin needs to log into the My Goverlan portal, and then they're basically able to generate this offline activation for you. It's going to show up in a couple of days, but they're able to generate the offline, process the offline activation, send you back a response code, and then you would be able to sign into the product without internet access. So if you're doing your administration from machines that are blocked from the internet, again, 10% of Goverlan users seem to be in this case, there is a method, it should be out within the next week. So that method is going to be available to you, and then you don't need internet access to acquire and release licenses.
Support question.
All right. Was there another support question?
Yeah, I'll have to contact Brian as well for that one.
Okay. Oh, so that sounds like they're in lockdown mode, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So Brian, we've just discussed that. We're going to contact you offline and help you with that. It's a security mode within Goverlan that basically locks down basically locks down Goverlan when it can't communicate to the Goverlan central server. So we'll get in touch with you. If there's anybody else on the call that needs help with Goverlan 8.5 that has any other questions, just send us a note in the chat or in the Q&A, and we'll make sure to get you assistance.
We also have our goverlan.com/support page where you can always, if you have any instant questions, you can chat with us live or open up back down here in the bottom right hand corner. We have a chat live, and you can also submit a ticket as well with us or Healings.
Right, and our kind of whole goal right now is to help folks move to the My Goverlan licensing portal and licensing system, because that's where all of our next innovations are going to come from. Everything is going to be managed through there going forward, including the Goverlan V9 beta, which is a good thing to talk about right now. So we're just going to segue right to that. Let's see if there's a... Oh, okay, so one question here, and this has come up a lot before we move to the V9 beta, is because of the way we've worked for so long, which is you can activate Goverlan on 2 machines for every license you buy. A lot of people, when they got introduced to Goverlan 8.5, immediately went to install fixed licenses on both of their machines. Now, in version 8.5, that uses 2 licenses. You can see that Victor is using a license on this machine, and he's using a license on this machine, and he's using a license on this machine. That's all a license usage. So if you're used to using Goverlan on multiple machines, try and use that floating method. Just remember to close the console and open it on your other machine. If you fix a license to 2 machines, it's going to use 2 fixed licenses. And I stress on this a little because there are folks who had like 5 licenses, and 3 of their users went and installed it on 2 of their machines, and that used 6 out of their 5, and then the next user couldn't install it, couldn't open it and launch it at all. So make sure that if you're installing Goverlan on multiple machines just for yourself, that you use the floating method, or you remember to hit command and sign off. Okay, that's a good important note. So thanks for asking that question. Okay, so Goverlan version 9 beta. If you have access to My Goverlan, if you have access to mygoverlan.com already, you have access to the beta. This is a public beta. It's open to everyone. Anybody can go and grab the beta. If you're not a Goverlan customer yet, just gain access to the portal by filling out this try form. It'll give you a 30-day trial, and then you can access the beta. Anybody can access the beta. There's a video recorded on the beta that shows you kind of the new features we have included, but I'll run through them with you really quick. Basically, it's full support of Goverlan for any machine, regardless of network location. So, if you're used to Goverlan, it's great for all your LAN machines or VPN-based machines. But what about, that home user or that salesperson that's roaming around all the time? So now you can fully support them as well. It's also got a strong focus on security. And the reason for this is that Goverlan uses things like native Windows authentication. We're not a hosted solution that's using like shared cloud resources across our customer base. So we're really focused on the security and compliance side of remote control. So like, it's great to have access to your remote users no matter where they are, but it's not great if that access comes with if you have to take on a huge security risk to gain that access. So that's kind of what we're trying to solve for in Goverlan version 9. And so I'm going to launch it right now and just show you just a couple of things that are different. So we'll just use a license here. Okay. So here's the version 9 remote control, kind of nice new theme. And by the way, you can run, thanks for asking that, Vidal, you can run V9 and 8.5 side by side. Or they run entirely side by side. Goverlan V9 requires you to install a new Goverlan central server, but it runs again side by side. Yes, this is awesome because you can now connect to those external users, and I'll jump right into an example of that. So it's called Goverlan Reach. So if I move into my Reach machines, you see my lovely wife was kind enough to share her laptop with us. This is an unattended web-based machine, not on the same domain. I'm going to hit connect to it. And it's just going to verify that I'm authorized access, and then I'm in with Goverlan Remote Control. And you know, this is the full version of Goverlan Remote Control, file transfers, task manager, all the stuff you've come to know in Goverlan is available for this web-based machine as well, including the unattended access. So this is indeed a huge update. The beta is very stable at this point. We have quite a few people who have pretty decent sized implementations using the V9 beta. And so I invite all of you to sign into the My Goverlan portal and download it, because it's just a little bit away from release. Is V9 an additional cost? So that's a good question. V9 is in itself is not an additional cost. If you have active maintenance for Goverlan, V9 is a free upgrade. It's just free. Now, there is a small additional maintenance cost for your web-based machine. So like Goverlan is still unlimited on the peer-to-peer side, but for web-based machines, small little maintenance fee for this Reach thing, we're still working out details. It'll be something like $5 per node per year at the most. So, and if you sign up for the beta, you get 20 nodes for free. So that means you can support 20 web-based machines for free. So what are the configuration settings that you have to set up for this Reach feature? So let's take a look at that. That's a good thing to look at right now. So you do need Windows Server 2008 or greater. And what you need to install is the Goverlan Central Server version 3 on that machine. And I'm going to show it to you. Once you install Goverlan Central Server version 3, you have to configure Goverlan Reach. This rest of the central server kind of gets configured the same way, but then you have to set up Goverlan Reach. So here's what it takes. You give your organization a name. You have to publish an external facing IP address. In this case, it's reachsvc.demo.goverlan.com and an exposed port. Traffic to that public-facing IP address and port get routed back to the machine that's hosting the Goverlan Central Server. So in terms of setup, what are you looking at? You're looking at, grabbing a Windows Server 2008 or later, right? It doesn't have to be a dedicated machine, right? You can use, like, if you have a file server or something like that, right? And install the Goverlan Central Server. You have to register the Goverlan Central Server just like you have to do today. If you have it stood up today, you register via SRV record, right, in DNS. So this way your machines become aware of the central server. Mm-hmm. And then you have to expose an IP address and then a single port forwarding rule to route that traffic to the machine that has the Goverlan Central Server on it. Mm-hmm. I think in entirety, the configuration, if you're following the documentation, should take about half an hour. Is that
probably less?
Probably less in most instances. It's really lightweight to set up.
It's a matter of pretty much just installing the Goverlan Central Server and making sure you insert that firewall rule for the port forwarding for both ports, or the ports that you're going to use for at least the outside to the inside. And that's pretty much it. And inserting the specific ports that you set up, because you don't have to use the default ports that are there. You can use whatever ports you like.
Right. We just do recommend that you're using ports above the ones that are in normal use for things, right? So like out of range ports. But we can discuss that if you have any questions. So now So now, what's the big advantage here? Why is this better than what everything else is out there? And it kind of speaks to one of the earlier comments when we were talking about licensing. God forbid your servers go down, then what? Well, we address that with our licensing and that it caches locally, and we have ways to buy ourselves time to make sure it doesn't go down. And it's kind of hosted in a very redundant place. It's not hosted on site here. I guess here's my next question is, if you're using a service, one of these cloud services, what happens when that service goes down or that service gets compromised? Because that actually happens quite a bit if you look at some of the hosted solutions for web-based remote control. So the answer is if you have Goverlan version 9, nothing happens to you because everything is hosted at your location. Everything is secured by you. You're not dependent on us for anything. You're not pinging off of the Goverlan servers at any point in time. This is a way for you to completely manage all of your web-based devices without needing to ping off of a third party. So you're not using kind of a shared cloud resource to make these connections. So that I think that's the biggest advantage is that everything is secured and hosted by you.
Yeah.
Right? Very nice feature, I guess. And just to tell you what else is coming. Here we have remote control for a web-based machine, right? Aside from just remote control, I can disconnect this remote control session. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to send the control alt delete through. I can disconnect from it and then still gain access to the behind-the-scenes management tools like you would in admin and diagnostics. So it's a lot more than just remote control. It's a lot more than replacing your TeamViewer or LogMeIn instance or bringing it into your Goverlan console. It's a whole lot more than that because we're offering the full Goverlan for these web-based machines. You're going to be able to deploy your software. You're going to be able to fully manage these machines, report on them, patch them, do all that kind of stuff.
And this is actually our new task manager that was completely overhauled from the ground up.
Yeah, and it's kind of very cool. You can track things all the time. So if you have a machine that's kind of peaking in the middle of the night, you hit that all-time button, you come in the morning, you just hover over the peak, and you'll see exactly what has caused that peak. So a lot of very cool stuff in version 9. And reason why it's important for you to take a look at the Goverlan portal, become familiar with the new licensing is because Goverlan version 9 is very close. So now a couple of other things to show you. I showed you how I can have this agent permanently installed on MorningThink and get unattended remote control access. But what if you have a salesperson that's out there, they don't have the agent installed on their machine, and you need to support them? What do you do? So I can go to On-Demand Goverlan Reach. I can generate a client email. Oh yeah, I have Outlook open on something else here. This is. I can generate a client email here, and I can send this to an end user, and then I can basically, they click on the link in the email, it downloads the agent, and then once the agent is downloaded, they run the update. And by the way, you can host the agent on your site, obviously, if you don't want to be dependent on Goverlan, since we've been talking about that. Another thing to mention, this is the same agent as it is for the rest of Goverlan. It's not a separate agent. There's only one agent. This agent in version 9 just comes ready for Goverlan Reach. So here, I just click the agent. I click on Start Support Session, and then I can read this 9-digit number back to the Goverlan operator, and they can connect to my machine and provide support.
If you want to have those UAC prompts, by the way, as well, you want to make sure that you hit that checkbox for provide administrative access. Just a little tip there here. Right here, this checkbox right here, just in case that user is in a local admin or they didn't start it as local admin. Hitting this little checkbox allows you to go ahead and see also the UAC prompts and such.
Right.
On the remote machine.
So a lot of good things coming in version 9. Best way to only way to get access to it is to sign into my Goverlan portal. So definitely take a look at version 9 beta, and if you sign up for the beta, again, you get you get 20 free reach nodes. So what reach nodes are is just machines that you want to have access to in an unattended fashion. So you know, it kind of works in a concurrent way where if a machine's within your environment, it's peer-to-peer and not consuming a reach node. But then once that user picks up their laptop and walks out the door and connects to a different network, and we have the internet in the way, it automatically switches to consume Goverlan reach. So you get 20 of those for free if you join the beta, so please do so. Kind of taking us towards the end of this demo, obviously open for more questions if there are any. When will V9 exit beta for licensed use? It's right around the corner. I'm getting pressured every day from the CEO to get closer on getting those web pages ready, which is kind of what we have left to do. So it's kind of, the product is really very nicely vetted, you know, really, really robust and works solidly. So now it's just a matter of getting all the marketing material. If you want to see a quote for it, if you have an idea of, you know, you have a project coming up and you want to get an idea of what's involved with moving to Goverlan V9 and Goverlan Reach, you can definitely reach out to us and we'll put that together for you. So really very close. I would say within a month it should be available. Cool. So just open up for any additional questions. I hope you guys enjoyed today's session. Again, the point of today was just to make sure if you haven't moved to 8.5, just to see if there are questions, see if you need help. For the couple of folks that mentioned that they don't know who their license admin is, you can expect a call from either myself or somebody else on the team where we'll point you in the right direction. Anybody else, please reach out to us if you have any questions or need anything regarding 8.5 or V9. We just really want to make sure everybody has a successful migration. It should be very, very easy for the most part. So I think we've jumped through all the major hurdles already. So with that, I'm going to close out today's session. Thanks to everybody that joined us today, and I hope you all have a great weekend. And again, thanks for taking the time and spending an hour with us today. Bye-bye.